Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. In this week's episode, we're starting off with some football, just a quick recap of what we saw from them this past week. Then we're going into cross country, volleyball, and soccer, as all of those are ending the end of their regular season and looking for some playoff hopes here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome to Jacket Sports Weekly, Waynesburg University's weekly sports show where we cover the best of the best in athletics. Our analysts discuss a multitude of highlight plays such as touchdown passes.
And Barber's going to throw again, one-on-one. Does he got it in him? That's a catch! Tyler Richmond with flags thrown everywhere makes the catch! Touchdown, Waynesburg!
And ones.
This was low, Waynesburg's going to get it! Suggs is going to pull away here, go for the layup, and it's going to fall in and one! PJ Suggs!
And home runs.
Higgins drives one to left field. The left fielder running back, and that ball is out of here. Grace Higgins.
Join us every Wednesday to see what's new in Waynesburg University athletics.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm your host for today, Joe Chirillo. Today, I'm going to be breaking down football for you. No analysts for you today with the football side with the unfortunate loss, 62-20. We didn't want to harp on it a little too much, but in the 62-20 loss to Geneva at home, it was 27-13 going into that halftime stretch. They had a really comfortable position that they were in that halftime area. They had a really good chance to come out, put some points on the board early, maybe put it to a 20-27 contest, but it really did run away from them. Geneva then was able to go on a 35-7 point run to end the game with their 62 total points that they had. Waynesburg now is going to be 8th in the conference overall with their 2-5 record on the season. They continue to make some strides in some other areas offensively. The big one that came out was with their running back situation. Caden Ebron, who has made majority of his snaps in the secondary of the defense this season. He got some snaps here at the running back position and had the most yards in total. He took his first running back snaps. He had 10 total attempts for 117 yards and a touchdown. His long was 75 yards, and that was the touchdown that he was able to score for the Yellow Jackets. We also had Carson Shriver still doing his job in the backfield as well. Not the normal numbers that we have normally seen from him. 18 total attempts with 61 total yards. No touchdown from him today. We continue to not see Zane Cawley. We've talked about that numerous times here on the show, but also throughout the broadcast. He's currently dealing with a lower body injury. Unsure of what his timeline is, whether we're going to be seeing him at some point the remainder of the season, or if he might be coming back next season here for the Yellow Jackets. Then when you look to Luke Hudson, he was 10-28 overall with 152 yards, a touchdown, and 2 overall interceptions. It really just came down to Geneva having that offensive pressure. Their quarterback having over 320 yards, having 3 touchdowns as well. He just continued to press on this this Waynesburg defense. This is now the biggest loss under Coach Coleman over his 3 total years. The 62-20 loss is now going to go down in history for Coleman's worst loss that we've seen on record from him, but that is only more effort to bounce back here with Washington and Jefferson coming up this Saturday, October 25th. Michael McKenzie and Anthony DiFilippo will be on the call with us on the radio station, WCYJ-FM 99.5 The Hive. Make sure to tune in there for anything else. We'll be right back with you here coming up with some cross country. Make sure to stay tuned next week for a full recap of that Washington and Jefferson game for football. Welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. In this segment, we have our first analyst with us for cross country. Normally in this segment, you see cross country, tennis, and golf. Tennis and golf have completed their seasons thus far over the fall break. If you want to see a recap on that, go back to our last episode to see a recap of their end of the season. But with us today for cross country, we have Michael McKenzie. Thank you very much for joining us here today. Good sir.
As always, it's a great pleasure to be on the desk.
Heck yes. In this past weekend, the Aubrey Schenk Invitational happened in Gettysburg. college with the Gettysburg Bullets hosting in that competition. Just run me through the results. Who do we see from the women's side, the men's side, compete, who did well, who didn't do as well? Run me through it.
We're going to start with the women. There were some notable finishes for the women among the entire field. 308 female runners in the event. Grace Tanksley with the best finish on the women's team for Waynesburg. 24th out of the 308 runners with a 22-minute, 40-second time finish. The second on the team, Erin Belleville, with a 23-minute, 26.7 second finish. She gets PAC Newcomer of the Week, finishes 45th out of the 308 runners. Big shout out to Erin Belleville, hitting her stride in her freshman year as we head into the PAC Championships, which we'll get into in a little bit. Some other notable finishes for the women: Taylor Sievert, a 25-minute, 31.9 second finish. Alexis Hepburn, 25-minute, 59.8 second finish. And Chloe Fields, a 26-minute, 1.2 second finish. The women finished 13th out of all 33 teams that ran in the Aubrey Schenck Invitational, so a good day overall for the women. As for the men, some notable finishes: Ethan Wilson with the team best, 28-minute, 14.2 second time, 147th out of the 320 male runners in the event. Nikki Todd with a 31-minute, 18.3 second finish. He was second on the team, and then right behind him, tied for third, Rockford Bobag with a 32-minute, 37.2 second finish. Logan Epperhard finished with the exact same time. They both tied for third among the men finishers for Waynesburg. So some notable finishes for the men. The team finished not really what you want, but for the women, the team finished exactly what you want. Top half of all the competitors there.
Especially what you would want going into the conference championships coming up. The President's Athletic Conference Championships for cross country will be coming up here. For you, what do you need to see in training coming up to these championships? You had a great turnout from the women's side, as you said, and as you said also with the men's side, wasn't what you would want to see. So what do you want from this team as individual competitors, but also team competitors, to come out looking to this championship?
I think both teams or both sides should have the same mindset or mentality going into this next couple of weeks of training. November 1st is when the PAC Championships will take place, so that's 2 Saturdays from now. I think you get that Sunday and that Monday to rest, recover, get your bodies right, and then this next week and then maybe a couple of days into next week, vigorous training, try to get your body into max performance level, which is obviously minimum time in cross country. You want that minimum time, but that's maximum performance. Little paradox in the words there. Figured I'd throw that in. But this next week, vigorous training. Try to get your bodies right, get into the right mindset for both for your mind and for your body. Just overall performance. Get into that right headspace. And then I think Tuesday or Wednesday next week, you start to take a little bit off. You've done a lot of vigorous training. You've gotten into a mindset of heavy, lifting or just workouts, whatever the individual athletes do. I know it's obviously different for each individual athlete, what you do for your workout, what your regimen is to get right. But you get that either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. You start to rest, maybe tone down the workouts a little bit. Make sure you're well rested to get that maximum performance. But this next week, vigorous training for the men. It's trying to really improve your team times. For the women, it's trying to stay in shape and stay where you are heading into PACs, because they're in a really good spot right now.
They had their penultimate tournament that they had a week ago, so now they have 3 total weeks to get their time ready for that. As you said, the training, I think, is going to continue as well. When you go into it, what are your pregame thoughts as it is right now, Mike, for this championship? What do you want to see from this team in the end, from each individual competitors, or as the team in general? What do you want to see to close out this season and look into next?
I think starting off with the women, I wouldn't be shocked if they compete for the team title in this event. They have done really well, especially with their team finishes towards the back half of the season. Obviously, Grace Tanksley, she's always going to put up some top finishes, great numbers. And then Erin Belleville really coming along, 2 PAC Newcomer of the Week awards, including one from this past week. So she's hitting her stride. The pun was intended there as we go into the PAC Championships. I think that this team's going to finish potentially in the top 3. I would not be surprised at all if they compete for a team title, especially with how they've been running team scores towards the end of the season. A lot of names are going to watch: Taylor Sievert, Alexis Hepburn, and Chloe Fields, some of those top finishes from the Aubrey Schenck Invitational, some names to watch as well as we head into PACs. As for the men, I don't think that we're going to see them compete for a team title, maybe a top 4, top 5 finish, but I'm looking at some of the top finishers for the latter part of the season and really the entire season. Ethan Wilson and Nikki Todd, the two that finished at the top of the team in the Aubrey Shank Invitational. Maybe you can see Logan Eberhardt, whose name's been a lot of the press releases, the top team finishes for Waynesburg's men. Maybe he gets a good showing. I think that your goal is to try to finish top 4, top 5 if you're Waynesburg, because I don't think that if you look at where the team has finished in the majority of their invitationals and their meets so far this season, team title is a really far stretch. So you set your goal at a realistic point that you can make your goal. I think top 4, top 5 is right around that point for the men. But again, back to the women to wrap this up, I think that they really have a chance to compete for that team championship.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike, for joining us to give us that in-depth look at the cross-country team. When we come back, we're going to be talking about volleyball cross-country. We'll be doing their PAC championship on November 1st. Make sure to stay tuned for that here on Jacket Sports Weekly in just a few episodes. But as we said, coming up, volleyball with Ethan Spozarski. Jacket Sports Weekly, we now start onto the court with volleyball in this conference matchup that they're going to be playing tonight. As we are recording this, they are 3 hours from serve, so we're not going to be talking about that game. You're going to be seeing this after the game has already happened. If you'd like to see those results, you can go to WaynesburgSports.com or the PACDigitalNetwork.com with Michael McKenzie and our very own analyst, Ethan Spozarski, on the call for the Waynesburg University Sports Network. Ethan, thank you very much for joining us here on the desk. When we get into this, 2-19 overall, 0-10 in the conference. It's not what we were hoping for last season, and you told me a fun fact last night about their last conference win. How about you take us through that and what going 0-3 in the past 5 matchups in their sets so far, 3 sets to none. What are their goals going to be in this necessity game kind of for them morality-wise against Washington and Jefferson?
Well, for starters, it's been 350 days since Waynesburg University Women's Volleyball has won a conference game. That stems back to November 6th of 2024, when last time the Sports Network covered a volleyball game, it was whenever Waynesburg hosted Grove City and defeated Grove City in 5 sets, 3-2. There was the big momentous huzzah because they just beat Emily Grossman, who was an assistant coach in Grove City. She was the head coach the last few years. She comes back to town. You get the win, a monumentous win. But since then, 0-11 in her last 11 attempts. 4 of those tries have been against Bethany, but the overall consensus, what you're seeing more consistently, is despite being swept in the last 5 attempts, there's 17 sets they've lost by 3 points or less. And there have been on numerous occasions that you watch, they get to the 20-point mark in any set, and it just fizzles out from there. The consistency's gone. Waynesburg consistently blowing leads, consistently not being able to keep up with opponents in crucial sets, is coming to hurt them. That's been the consistency about it, and it's overall the reason why they've fallen down this rabbit hole. They're on a 6-game losing streak right now. But overall, I think the biggest thing is just recognizing and noticing that, and the players know. And it's not like that Hope Johnston or the players aren't sitting there going, oh, I wonder what's going on, because they know. And I've talked to Hope Johnston. She knows this team wants to win really badly. 2-19 is not where they want to be, especially for the seniors as well. No one wants to be 2-19, 0-10.
No.
But they really want to win bad. So I will say this, their urgency on the flip side of it has never been more higher, nor have they been more attentive to want to win than right now.
So with Washington and Jefferson play going on tonight, we then look to their future of the schedule. Geneva, they then host on Friday at home, and then look to Chatham next week on next Wednesday at the away tournament. And that, if you're Coach Johnson, okay, what are you looking to find in a rhythm? Are you finding that the rhythm is working, and are you using that to fuel future matchups going into not only the remainder of this season, but also looking forward into next season?
I think right now, I guess right now, mathematically, not technically, but essentially eliminated from playoff contention. The good news for Waynesburg is Geneva's last in the North Division. Now, they're still in conference play, but not divisional play. Geneva's 4-19. They're only 2 games ahead, theoretically, 1 conference game ahead than from where Waynesburg is right now. So that could be a really good matchup in order to get some morale boosters back, depending on what happens tonight versus W&J. Chatham leads the South Division, the division that Waynesburg currently subsides in. 13-4 opponent there, 8-2 in PAC play. It's going to be a little bit different. But right now, for me personally, and again, I can't speak for Hope Johnston, but I would say that you are starting to turn the page towards next year. Hope Johnston did a fantastic job recruiting. Now, again, you probably would argue, okay, 2-19, 0-10, that's not fantastic. Well, 14 new players on the team, I think that counteracts that thought. To the fact that you're able to bring other people over on top of Christina Zadrozny is going to be a senior next year. Larissa Howe, who is technically a grad student, has 2 years of eligibility left. So she'll be able, after this year, so she's going to be able to play next year. She's second on the team in kills right now. On top of Mallory Boyd, Audrey Work, Ray Boniaga, there are a lot of talent coming into next year. And Hope Johnson started basically with a fresh new team this year. So last year she had a great seniors and was able to go on and win 6-7 games. You only win 2 depending on however many left, 3, 4. That can all change, especially with a new team. So use the rest of this year to continue to learn, because Hope Johnson mentioned at the beginning of the year before conference play, they want to learn. They want to see who fits well with who, what schemes. I think the consistent thing that needs to be changed, though, is the communication. A lot of what's biting them in the butt when they start to lose or fall behind, as we said later on in sets, is when they miscommunicate and they're not there and be able to capitalize on offensive opportunities.
And at this point in the season for Coach Johnson, she's been here for 2 years. And so half of the team is hers with those sophomores and freshmen coming in, and then the other half hasn't been hers. They are known as Emily Grossman's team. And so having those people, not flushing them out, but eventually when they start to leave as graduation comes on, you start to be able to formulate the team that you really want to have and be able to do that. I definitely think there's a spark at the end of the tunnel, and we're starting to see that, and it could catch fire with that Geneva matchup that you talked about. You also mentioned with the championship coming up here shortly, Waynesburg not mathematically eliminated yet. However, it's more than likely that it is unlikely that they are. Right now, they would need to win out the remainder of their games and have majority of their others in the division lose out, which is extremely unlikely. But in this case overall, just in the conference, what are we looking for? What are the playoffs looking like as of right now? Who's in, who's out, who's maybe on the line, on the fence?
Well, the whole South Division's on the fence. Besides Chatham, it's a tight race. W&J sits at 6-4 as of right now before their match versus Waynesburg tonight. And then Franciscan, Bethany, and St. Vincent are all 4-6. That is just a giant toting line right there on the fence. Who's going to do what? The North Division's where all the action is at right now as of today. Hiram is 9-1 in PAC play, 17-2 overall. Then you got Teal, who traditionally as an athletic program doesn't have a lot of success going on, but volleyball-wise, they are really it. 13-5, they're 8-2 in PAC play. Then you have Allegheny, who won last year's women's volleyball tournament in 2024. They sit at 12-9 overall with a nice 6-4 record there. Then Grove City and Westminster are each 5-5. I think what happens is you're going to see the top parts of each of these divisions move on. So, I think Hiram is my favorite right now to win the whole thing. They're definitely going to be able to move it there. Only one PAC loss right now is there. I think you should really think of Teal. I think Teal is very seriously going to be into the competition. And as well as Chatham. I think those are the top 3 schools, and 2 of the 3 are in the North Division. I think there's a lot of gray area between like Bethany, Franciscan, and St. Vincent. Technically, I guess Allegheny's kind of on the top half of the gray area. I'd still put them there just because they're not where they were last year with a lot of graduating seniors. But I wouldn't consider Grove City or Westminster to be anything too serious just because of where they are divisionally. One of those 2 teams is going to get knocked out just by simply off of where standings are in mathematical elimination once it comes down to confirming a bracket. But I'd say Chatham probably is the best odds to win of anyone in the South Division because, again, that large gray area. But overall, I think it's really exciting. I think women's volleyball is growing in popularity. Men's volleyball is coming out to more PAC schools. So volleyball as a sport is red hot in the PAC. I think, though, right now, Hiram overall is my favorite. I'd lock down to win the whole thing because they're basically the Allegheny of last year.
All righty. Thank you very much, Ethan. Good luck to you in the broadcast on the Waynesburg University Sports Network. Him and Michael McKenzie will be on the call for that one. For yourself, if you're interested to see the results of this matchup, go to WaynesburgSports.com or see the PACDigitalNetwork.com. Or if you want to see where the standings are for everything else, you can go to the PACathletics.org for all of that information as well. That's going to do it for this volleyball segment. Coming up to finish us out, we're going to have Anthony DiFilippo on with some soccer. Jacket Sports Weekly, we are back with soccer this time. In soccer currently we're going to start off with the men's. In the men's area, they are currently on their way to Hiram. They are going to be kicking off, I should say, in 6 hours of recording. So if you want to see those results after this episode, go check on WaynesburgSports.com. But with me for men's soccer, we have Anthony DiFilippo, also going to be breaking down women's soccer. Anthony, welcome to the desk.
Joe, thanks for having me.
Heck yes. All right, so with Waynesburg men's team, they are on a tie streak, which is something we would never think to say. They went 1-1 against St. Vincent, 2-2 against Chatham, 3-3 against Franciscan, and with Hiram, we hope to see a 4-4 just for the fun of it. But in this case, for Franciscan, goals from Zach Johnson, Matt Serrano, and Antonio Beres early in the match, almost entirely in that first half, and then the team let in 3 goals in a matter of 15 game minutes. So what went wrong, or better yet, what just didn't work for this Waynesburg team?
I mean, at the beginning, it was awesome. I mean, this is a powerhouse in the PAC in Franciscan. This is a team to not be taken lightly. You get out to a 3-0 lead, and then you just waste it all away. I mean, this is what this team has really been doing for the last couple of seasons. It's the main reason they missed the playoffs last year in a tiebreaker to Washington and Jefferson. It's just defensive lapses. I mean, you don't see a lot of it for the majority of the season. You play some of those middle ground PAC teams, even play some of those better teams like Washington, Jefferson, Grove City. Those losses aren't all that far and few between. I mean, you don't give up that many goals against those teams. Once Franciscan got 1 goal, it really just went downhill from there, Joe. And it was unfortunate to see a team that takes a lot of draws in the PAC.
Like I said, 15 game minutes in total for Franciscan to get those goals in and to make it a 3-3 contest. In the end, they tied. Right now, with the overall record, they're 7-4-4, and in the conference, they're 2-2-4. And so hopefully we're not seeing a 2-3-4 after this Hiram matchup. We are hoping not for a draw. We would love to get that streak out of there. But what is the main strategy that you would hope to see, Anthony, going into this Hiram game tonight?
Well, you can't end in a draw. I mean, that's just the biggest thing. You cannot end in a tie in any case scenario. I know you joked about the 4-4 tie. If they tie Hiram again, they go up to 5 ties on the season. It just doesn't make a lot. It just doesn't work for this Waynesburg team tonight. They have to go in. They have to press early. They have to get the first goal tonight, and they just have to keep rolling. Don't ever give up, and don't lapse on defense. It just won't work.
So this late into the season, they've had a lot of ties, as we've talked about, but they've also had a good amount of their wins, 1-0 or 1-0 contests, 2-0 contests, even those 2-1 contests that we've been having. Who has been that standout player late in the season that is hopefully going to stand out even more in these last few matchups to push them into the playoffs?
I'm sure people want me to talk about Zachary Johnson. Antonio Barras has looked really good recently. Matt Serrano has even seen an uptick in minutes and has looked better. But the standout and the truth of the matter is Waynesburg wouldn't even be in this situation if it weren't for their freshman goalkeeper, Devin Patel. He has been fantastic, a freshman out of Columbus, Ohio. Patel has kept them in games all season long. He's had a couple of shutouts, which have been absolutely clutch. So finding a goalkeeper, there were some questions about how it would work past Michael Frankus, and Patel has provided a true answer for this team.
He's been able to keep this team in it defensively entirely. In these past matchups, he's been able to keep them on their toes, been able to keep them still at that 0-0 or tie contest, and the offense just hasn't been able to go with it. But right now, what are the playoff chances and implications for the Yellow Jackets, and who else in the conference is going to be making it in the men's side?
This looks so similar to deja vu from last year because the team they're battling with is the team they were battling with at the end of last year, Washington and Jefferson, for that 6th or 7th spot in the PAC. Teams like Westminster, Grove City, Allegheny, they're in. There are a couple other teams battling, but I think it's going to come down to Waynesburg and Washington and Jefferson for that 7th seed in the PAC again, and it's because Waynesburg can't get out of their own way with these draws, like I've mentioned the last 3 times I've been up here.
And so now with that, we're going to move on into the women's side of the ball. For the women, they are 12-1-2 overall, 6-0-2 in the conference. There's been a lot of history being made. With those 12 wins, George DeAugustino, the head coach of the women's team, now moves into 2nd place all-time in wins for a coach. Right now is currently Ken Alberta with a 58-93-5 record. We'll potentially be able to see that over the next year or two for DeAugustino. But then when you also look with their goalkeeper in Greenleaf. She now has 13 total shutouts in her career. She is now second in program history with shutouts, and the number one is Katrina Kelly with 17 total. So just a few little history remarks to know that this season has still continued to be historic and will continue to be as historic as it has been in this season. They have the 7th best offense in the NCAA D3. They continue to just push themselves to be better and better. Right now, if they were even just to lose out entirely, they would still have the 2nd best record in program history. The first best is a 14-5-1. So if we continue to see them as they have been in this season, they might be in contention to have the best record. But in this case, we look to the Waynesburg game that they had against Franciscan. 1-0 contest, Amanda Pepe with the goal. 7 total corner kicks was something that I wanted to mark as, was that they had in total against this Franciscan team. Should they be making more attacks with these corner kicks that they have, or they just continue to be as passive as they has been in the past?
Corner kicks have been really important for Waynesburg this year, and I feel like it hasn't really been talked about enough. They have 107 corners this year. That's most in the PAC by far. I think they've been smart with their passive plays, except you can point to one game against St. Vincent on Senior Day a couple of weeks ago. Both of their goals in that game came off corners, including Jules Moorbacher in the dying minutes of that game. So whether or not they're aggressive or passive, it remains to be seen. But I think whatever they're drawing up is just team dependent. It just depends on who their opponent is. Regan Mittendorf is taking a lot of their corners, and she's doing a really great job at it.
They continue to use Mittendorf, which is a good thing, but
Right.
also you want to look towards the future. Mittendorf being a senior, she'll be graduating from the program after this season. So they've also been using Bryn Kirby a lot in their corners and using her as availability. But now they are also currently traveling to Hiram. They are going to be playing that also tonight. So if you want to look up those results, waynesburgsports.com again. But what is the game plan that you would want from them going into this Hiram matchup?
The women's team has done a really good job at winning games in different ways this year, and I've talked about it the last couple of times. They've had blowouts against teams like Teal, who aren't all that good in the President's Athletic Conference, but you got to take care of business there. They're going into a game against Hiram. The key for Waynesburg is play their game, keep your head down. You're already pretty much safely in playoff contention there. You're in the playoffs. You're just battling for that first round bye potentially now, which will be all that much more big going into the final 3 matches of the season. So keep on keeping on. Keep using Amanda Pepe, Jules Moorbacher. Use what works and just play your game.
Continue to go on. You mentioned those playoff implications. Run me through that for Waynesburg. What are they going to be looking for in these final matchups that they have of their regular season? What can we look with this Yellow Jackets team?
Well, they've got 3 games left. They play Hiram tonight, which you'll see obviously after the recording. Then they have Geneva, I believe, and then Grove City is their final game, and that's the game that I'm really looking forward to. That could end up deciding a whole heck of a lot as it comes to positioning in the standings going into the PAC tournament. But you got to win each and every game. You can't take one opponent more lightly than the other one, and the path to the championship is just keep your head down. I'll say it again. It's like beating a dead horse at this point. But you got to play your game, and you got to control the tempo.
Yeah.
And that's how you'll have success in the playoffs.
The final game of this regular season is going to be at home for the Yellow Jackets. They play against Grove City, who is first right now in the conference. Right now, if Grove City, who's playing St. Vincent tonight, if they were to win or tie, Waynesburg would pretty much just need to coast as they have been, and they would be in that first position place. But just something to note, that final game could be implications for who gets that first place bye into the conference matchups. It seems, as you said, pretty likely that we're going to be seeing the women's team going into the playoffs. So make sure to stay right here on Jacket Sports Weekly for a lot more of that content coming up. Anthony, thank you very much for joining me on the desk for those men's and women's soccer teams. Thank you very much for joining us here on Jacket Sports Weekly this week, talking about football, cross country, volleyball, men's and women's soccer. Make sure to stay tuned for everything else that you would want to see in Waynesburg sports and Waynesburg content here on WCTV's YouTube page. That's going to do it all for myself, Joe Chirillo. We thank all the analysts and everyone behind the scenes for helping us out here today. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you back here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.